I guess by now you're pretty clear that stress is a phantom word that we use that obfuscates, that hides what's really going on. So we have to get to, well, what is stress really? And when we look under the word stress, we see that something for us is too much. Um, and so the issue with dealing with stress, anxiety, and overwhelm is that when I'm talking about stress, I'm saying that something is too much for my current capacity to deal with. Something is too much for my current capacity to deal with now at this time. So it becomes an issue of capacity. And that's, at the heart of this course. It's like, well, okay, but then how do I increase my capacity? Because it's our capacity, literally the space that we have inside for our nervous system to operate successfully. And that's also what trauma is all this frozen past that we carry in us. And we all have trauma, either personal trauma. Well, we all have personal trauma and familial trauma and cultural trauma and intergenerational trauma. We're swimming in a sea of it. And that explains a lot, like why we can put, money ahead of lives, how we can do genocide and do all the, right now there's, particularly in the States, but all over the world, there's this, huge conflicts and anger, and people are, fearful and all of that, and we're carrying all that. So right now is a time to really be using the stress to increase our capacity. So I just wanted to say that as kind of I know you've seen the videos of the course, but just to open up. So where are you challenged, or do you understand what I'm saying when I'm saying increase our capacity? So I'm just saying that to open up the field for questions and for anything you'd like to chat about and personally get some support in. So this this is up to you, and just jump in and either raise your hand or just talk, and you know this is your show. I'm just here to support you.
Well, I'd like to
And one
start
way
out.
to,
Right.
pardon? Yeah,
I would like to
good.
start out, if you don't mind, by just saying thank you so much for this such an opportune time and subject, because I have decided instead of being stressed out, I have turned my home into an ashram, and I've given myself permission to slow way down and to really do the work that I need to do within. And that once I made up my mind to do that, my stress level went way down. Now with these courses that I'm taking with you, I am learning more about, I knew some of the tools, but I'm understanding some of the stepping stones. Because even last night I was writing in my journal about how, even though I came from an amazingly loving family, they didn't really support me emotionally. And things came flooding out of me, and I understood, wow, there's the trauma, there are the shadows, there are the things, these are all the things I need to be working on. And because of COVID, I had the time to do it. And I live alone, so I'm not really, I don't have to really parcel my time out with other things. I can really dedicate this time to my own practice. And I feel like I am unraveling things in a good way to help myself become more proactive and more almost walking in equanimity, so that I can be a better person. And I can also then send that out to the universe, to the planet, to help other people. So I'm totally excited about these opportunities that I'm having with you, and the information that you're giving to me. I'm even understanding more about collective trauma, and why, how did we get into this political, religious, social justice mess that we're in? It makes total sense to me. And
Yeah.
what's really nice, listening to your talk about the emotions and how we need to feel them in the body. I grew up in a family, like I said, that loved me, but I didn't really see a lot of compassion modeled
Mhm.
or shown to me. And it occurred to me that I don't really understand compassion that well. And then when I reviewed what you had to say, I realized, well, if I hadn't been processing my other emotions, how could I be compassionate?
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
so I sat
beautiful.
today with I've done some shamanic work today, and I've sat in my temple, and I really kind of apologized. I felt sad for myself for the I came from two wonderful parents. We were three good people that didn't know how to get it right, is the way I've always said that. And so I felt sad for that, and I allowed myself to feel sad and kept it in my body,
Good.
and then grounded it, and then I went on to the next thing, and then I looked at, okay, so where can I become more compassionate, and how, and I even forgave myself. I've been a teacher all my life, so I know that I use some of the tools I got from my family, the shame and blame tools, on my students. And I realized that about 10 years into my career, but now I really understand it. So I apologized to my students energetically and forgave myself. So you've given me some amazing tools and a lot of food for thought for me to work on. And so I really do appreciate this
Thank you,
opportunity.
Daria. Yeah, I'm glad. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So much in what you've said. Let's go back to the beginning here. Going fast is a trauma symptom. So your slowing down is one of the best things you could do. Our slowing down is one of the best things we can do. Why are we moving so fast? We're hyper regulated. We've dropped down because of trauma into the sympathetic nervous system, which is in flight or fight constantly. So that's one level down in what's called polyvagal theory with your nervous system. And so when you drop down into that system, you're always looking, you're always wanting to see, is it safe? Is it safe? Am I safe? And then to another thing you said, attachment trauma, pretty much everybody has some attachment trauma. Um, Close to half the people have more complex attachment. And that's exactly what you said when someone doesn't know how to parent. And of course, they didn't know from their parent and their parent. So it's ancestral that it's handed down that we don't show emotions, um, or we show them in, one of my people that I facilitate with a lot of trauma grew up in a Russian household, and that household was just to smack them, and children are to be seen and not heard. That was my Danish upbringing. Children are to be seen and not heard, and
That was
so
mine as well.
you
Yeah.
know yeah, when the when as a child the person doesn't see us, doesn't hear us, and we're trying to do the cues. And many people, there was in my era, Dr. Spock was really big. If the child cries, let them cry, so they'll cry it out. That's like, not only traumatic to the child, it's traumatic to the mother to sit there and listen to your child crying, because mammals need connection. And if you don't have that connection, there's some great. I was in a workshop with Bessel van der Kolk, who wrote The Body Keeps the Score last weekend. And I think it was there, but there was this movie of a mother. Some of you may have seen it, with a baby, and the baby was having fun and had a little toy and was sticking it in the mom's mouth, playing, and she was cooing, and they had this incredible repertoire. And then the instruction was, now just go quiet, go silent, like this. So the woman just went like this, and immediately the baby started getting really uncomfortable, and then tugging at her, and then hopping in her lap and then screaming, crying. And, it was that was only about a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes at the most. And then the mother came back and soothed him and Hi, Anna, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Where's everybody else?
Well, we'll find out. I don't know. Hi, Sharon, you made it back. Can you hear me all right, Sharon?
Now we can't hear Sharon.
She's muted. She just has to unmute. Lower left.
There we go. Got it.
Okay. You can hear me okay?
I can. Yeah, perfectly.
Okay, good. Switch computers and get closer to the router when in doubt. So.
It's real life when these things happen.
Yeah. I live out in the country, so, and not the best service, although I've got the most expensive internet. So
yeah, because it's want to have the best of both worlds, isn't it? Having the country and kind of being a bit away from technology, but having it when you need it.
exactly. Okay. So Julie, can you hear?
Yes, I can hear. I logged in with a different app, like a device, and so I can't like it. Zoom isn't allowed to access my camera, and I would have to probably leave to.
That
Sorry.
happened with one of mine. It used to work and then it just stopped working.
Yeah.
These things,
I know.
Well, let me pick up. So I was telling you about a video that when the mother with about a 1.5-year-old went dark. She just kind of went like this, and the child got progressively more and more anxious until it was screaming in less than 2 minutes. And that's an attachment trauma. But what another researcher did was then video a couple together and left the room, but left the camera on. And the woman was really upset that her boyfriend wouldn't go to the family dinner, and they had this argument. And the exact same physical movements went through the woman when the man was just, no, I don't want to talk about it, like that. And all the things that the baby did, the man did in the relationship. And it was uncanny how almost to a T, all the different stages that the anxiety of the child went through. And you could see it in the woman, getting more and more frustrated and more anxious. So these things really do carry on in our life. And how do we heal them there? We need to go back and create the space within so that our nervous system can integrate those frozen things from the past. Because what we're talking about is dissociation. You can call it soul loss. you can call it loss of essence, whatever you want to call it, because some situation was overwhelming too much, the intelligence of our nervous system shut down and said, I'm going to protect this child, you know. And so that's there's never anything broken or wrong. It's that your nervous system is still protecting you from when you were 2 or 5 or 3. So Daria, you know, I was riffing off what you were saying, you know, that not getting that emotional connection is a trauma. And it's likely a ancestral trauma as well as a personal trauma, because your mother had the same kind of thing and her mother before her, and it just goes all the way back. So this is really important work because we're healing our ancestral line as well, because that lives in us. The only way our ancestors live is in our bones, our blood, our breath. They literally are in it, and our resilience is dependent. Our ability, and a lot of resilience comes from our ancestors, but the ability to connect and to create more inner space, and then to follow on that, to connect and have more inner space, we have to feel safe. We have to create a space of safety. So again, I'm just speaking to the things that you said in your opening very gracious gratitude statement, but also there was a lot in there as you were talking. So hopefully that will bring up some questions and opportunities for us to do some coaching. And I'm wearing these glasses because I'm having trouble with my eyes with being on the computer, because I'm pretty much these days all day either working with clients or teaching or online. So this seems to be working, at least in the first few days I've been using them. So questions, comments, requests, anything that you need. This is your time here. So I'm just here to relate to whatever's going on, whatever you need. But again, the primary issue is, how do I expand my capacity?
I will say that I have been working with my ancestors for quite a while, which has been very helpful.
Yeah.
And I have been doing a lot of shadow work as well. So I still have miles to go before I sleep, so to speak, on this, and probably will never ever get it all resolved. But I feel pretty peaceful. I brought up a lot of situations, memories, traumatic situations from my childhood that I'm not going to go into here, because I know that I can sit with them and work through them. And I really don't have a huge emotional charge over them. It's just nice to be able to bring them up and say, yep, that happened. And that was this. And that was a part of this emotion. And that's why I feel this way, or that's what led to this. So you, like I said, I do have a lot of gratitude for your wisdom, Michael, because you've given me a lot to think about that I haven't been thinking in that direction ever.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And here's something else. I just riff off of people. So the thing that we need to get is, there's no place to get to other than here. The more here-ness there is. But as long as one person out of 7.8 billion people is traumatized, we're traumatized, because in our essence, we are interconnected and interdependent. So even when you've been in the light, and just, you're just walking light, even if you get that far, you're still not done. There's still more to go. So the issue of creating space is to have more here-ness. And a trauma symptom is, like I said, running, but it's also always wanting to be somewhere else other than we are. Always wanting to be with the ideal partner, always wanting to have the ideal job, always wanting to have, we live into these, this is good, but this could be better. And we're always in the this could be better, which means we're not present in the moment. And to increase our capacity to hold, we need to be more and more here, which is why I'm such a big proponent of meditation and among other things, body-oriented practices are also important. You know, yoga, walking in the woods, spending time in nature, stretching, or just very aware body awareness.
And is part of that, Michael, trying to get the kind of trauma out of your body?
No, that's a great question. Thank you. You're not trying to get anything out or to change anything. There's a thing called the paradoxical theory of change from Gestalt. And it says, change doesn't happen from being what you're not. Change happens for being precisely what you are in the moment. And when that happens, the conditions for real change happen. You also cultivate the capacity to hear the emergent future in the present, rather than the imagined future out in the future. Like what I'm going to do when I win the lottery, or meet the right person, or get the right job, or all of that. So we're always like removing ourselves from our own here-ness. So awareness is what does the healing. It's not like I'm fixing something, because you're not broken. One of the biggest challenges to development is the Catholic Church's original sin. Saint Augustine was not right about original sin. And you can prove that. Hold a baby, you know. We're born into original goodness. And original sin is a great way for the church to control people, to justify genocide, and to collect taxes. But in terms of having healthy people, I mean, look at all the priest scandals. That should tell you a lot right there. They're dissociated and they're traumatized, so many of them, and the damage that they've done to so many children over the years, both the nuns and the priests. And that comes directly out of this withholding our natural wild self and trying to repress that part of ourself. And then it comes out in these crazy ways. So, yeah. So anything about that?
I get a bit panicky if I feel I'm not doing something. And I think it's, so when you was talking about the parasympathetic nervous system, I think it is that. I think it's my body's kind of reaction.
That's the sympathetic nervous system.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the other way. Yeah.
Parasympathetic. Yeah, that's exactly right. And like I said, that is a trauma symptom, wanting to always be somewhere else. The other major trauma system is feeling separate, not connected, not interconnected with others. So that's a key sign that your nervous system, and it's not you, it's your nervous system. 80% of everything that goes on in your life is from the head down. Everything's being run automatically. We think that it's happening up here. That's why cognitive behavioral therapy does not work. You know, it's just, you can't change the mind with the mind. You have to go to the body. So, you know, and if you're working with a healer or a teacher or a trauma facilitator, like what I do, so there's two kinds of healers, right? There's the doctor model. The doctor, in his wisdom and largesse, is going to fix you when you come in with a broken part. And there are things that, you know, broken leg or something like that. Yeah, that's good. I don't want, you know, somebody off the street fixing my broken leg. I want somebody who's got experience. But that model is a model of separation. My doctor is going to fix me. And of course, in therapy, that's really dangerous, because my doctor is going to give me drugs that may or may not be a good thing. Now, and I'm not saying that there isn't a value for drugs either, so you have to hear me. But then there's another kind of healer, which if you're looking for a therapist, if you're looking for a teacher or a healer, and that's the healer that recognizes that they're not doing anything, that life is healing. Life is designed to heal. If you get a cut on your finger, it heals automatically. That's true about your emotional life also. But if you have a cut on your finger and you keep picking at it, trying to fix it, you're going to lose your finger. It's not going to heal. So it's very counterintuitive, but your nervous system is functioning perfectly in your trauma responses. It's functioning perfectly. You just don't know what the function is that it's serving, but it's serving a function to protect you, to keep you from being harmed, for, you know, whatever it is that the fear or the drama or trauma was that had you shut down and dissociate at the time, you know, that nervous system is still working for you. So we want to get, you know, from the sympathetic nervous system to recognize that hypervigilance, you know, or the parasympathetic, which is the freeze part. That's our oldest brain, actually, is just to freeze. That's like 600 million year old brain. And the reptilian brain is 500 million, but the neocortex is, you know, like 100 million years old. And that's the one that's trying to regulate things. But so there's a hierarchy in the nervous system. I don't know if you want to get into the technology of it, but there's basically a hierarchy. Yes, you do. Okay. So you've heard of polyvagal theory? Polyvagal theory was created by Stephen Porges about 25 years ago. Revolutionary, which still is not taught in schools to many people, but basically showing how the only way to really deal with trauma is with the body, through the body. It's not through the mind. And so there's a vagus nerve that runs down from the spinal column. Okay, it runs down. Vagus means wandering. So it's a wandering nerve, comes down and it comes around, it connects to the heart, it connects to the belly, and it goes down here. So the freeze state is sorry, I'm drawing a blank on a word. My aged brain is the dorsal ventral part. Okay, the back of that nerve, the dorsal ventral, is what has that complete, you know, and people who are traumatized in that will do crazy things and not see danger, you know, ride motorcycles on railroad tracks at 100 miles an hour, or do crazy things. They don't have any mechanism. So in a way, they're just numb. And so that's the oldest. And that's like grief. That's being enmeshed in grief. Then the next level up is actually the sympathetic. And that's the fight or flight. So when you're in that stage, you're more hyper regulated. When you're in the lower state, you're hypo-regulated. And then there's the dorsal ventral. There's the ventral vagus nerve, the ventral, and that's a place where it's safe. So the whole issue, you know, that's a long explanation, but the issue is, how safe do I feel? Because the more safe I feel, the more space I have. The more space I have, the more things can come up to be seen, which is why sometimes when people are try to meditate and they go, oh yeah, meditation is great, I'm so relaxed. And then a couple of weeks or a month later, they're going, I don't know why it's not working anymore. all of a sudden I meditate and you know, lions and tigers and craziness and stories keep coming up. What's, you know, I've lost it. No, you haven't lost anything. Actually, you created the space, the safety. Space is synonymous with safety for old issues to come up, to be seen, to be held, to be loved. You know, and this is what I talk about in the Way of the Mystic. The whole course is about this area. And so when those things come up, that's when we allow ourselves to feel the fear we couldn't feel earlier, to deal with the rape or the car accident or the divorce or whatever it was where we shut ourselves down. We have to feel the feelings. And unfortunately, there's no easy way. You really got to feel the feelings. When you feel the feelings, then that creates more space for more things to come up, but it also digests and integrates those parts of us that are frozen. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah, good. What else? I would invite you, you know, we've got about 45 minutes left. I'd invite you to look at personally what kind of support you need, because this is a coaching and integration session. So, yeah.
I'm ready for a question. It's
Yeah,
along, thanks. It's along the lines of, I keep hearing like all these instructions on how to meditate, and you know, there's no like, it's this funny thing where they're like, oh, you should meditate every day, and they won't tell you how much. And that's fine. I'm getting used to this. But like, for instance, the whole mindfulness thing, theoretically, couldn't you go through your whole day being mindful?
Oh, absolutely.
So I think that I tend to spend at least 50% of my day being mindful. I mean, considering I'm asleep for, you know, a good 8 hours of it. And definitely there's times when I forget or get distracted or choose to be distracted.
Mhm.
And, you know, I went to the plant spirit medicine week last week, and felt like that really, you know, these things I keep attending keep kind of reinforcing and cementing, like, oh yeah, I remember that, these philosophies. And I think that, I guess I wonder, I don't feel like I'm in a bad space. I think that generally I've had a stressful life, and so I keep thinking maybe I need to be doing something more than I'm doing. But I think I do have running thing where I I think I have, it's weird because I feel like what I have is mindful stress.
Mhm.
So I think the reason I signed up for this is because um I there've been a few times when I had anxiety that I just it like couldn't figure out what to do with, because it was big, and it wasn't like I can actually escape it. Like, I was upset. I had an ex who had recently moved out, and I felt like I could feel his anger from all the way across town. And at the time, I couldn't make my way out of it. But I don't have those feelings anymore. And I think it's situational in that I don't have that situation. But I do have anxiety, obviously, about climate change and species extinction, and the fact that people aren't connecting on a deep level. I guess, what is my question? My question is, like, I think I'm hearing that even if you sit and meditate for 20 minutes a day or an hour a day, it's still a really long process. So if I'm still having these sort of epiphanies and I am in the moment when the stress kind of takes over, learning to try to go into my body instead of out of it, or, consciously choose, okay, when am I going to use a television show to calm myself down? And when am I going to use hugging a child, or, you know, relaxing with a cup of tea or a small glass of wine, like being more judicious about it. Is that I
Mhm.
guess I'm wondering,
So,
are those
yeah,
things?
I get where you're coming from. So let me ask you a question. In the couple minutes that you were speaking, you used one word over 20 times.
Wow.
Do you know what the word was?
Stress or anxiety?
Mm-mm. No. Think.
Besides I?
I think. Yes,
Oh,
I
yeah.
with I think. Yeah.
Okay.
But the word was think. Therein lies the rub.
Well, I've been really careful because I work with a women's group that has been studying how to take responsibility for our life and what's happening in it, and how we create things consciously or unconsciously, and how we create patterns and we project meaning onto something that might not have meaning because we had a youth experience. And one of the main things was to say, I think, when that's what's happening, I feel, because feelings are pretty much joy, sad, mad, shame, and um, what's the other one?
Grief.
No,
Anger.
no, it was like sad, mad, glad, shame, and guilt. Yes.
Mhm. Okay.
So
Okay. So
shame and guilt, people think
let's
are other
let's
things.
deconstruct it. So all the work you're doing is fine. I'm not in any way opposing. I think you're doing great work, Julie. Um, and there's a way that we go to the mind, which creates a spiritual bypass. In other words, it takes us out of our nervous system and into our mind.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of great work you can do with your mind, and you can certainly be very mindful, uh, which is, of course, a misnomer for what we're trying to get to, because it's not mindful that we want. It's not mindless either, but it's beyond mind. We're wanting to go beyond mind. So a common spiritual bypass that most people have is trying to think their self through when it's not a thinking issue. When, like I said, 80% of everything happens below your head in your body. And
Mhm.
so to get back, just to go through all, you said a lot of things there. So I just want to address them as much as I can. So why do we do sitting meditation? Why do we do contemplation? Why have people done it, very wise people, for hundreds of thousands of years? Because it's an opportunity to go beyond mind and to actually go into the body. And it's connecting with the interiority that allows you to create the space. So, you know, um, it's, I sit a minimum of an hour a day myself. Um, and I'll tell you, if I don't meditate, I really, really know the difference. I'm just not in my body fully. And so we live in a culture that's disembodied, that lives in its head. The culture lives in its head, literally.
But if you're thinking about lions, and what, remember you said that, they say, well, what happened? I was doing so well, not thinking in my meditation, and then all this stuff comes up. So isn't that thinking though?
No, that's being thought. And
Okay.
that's very different than thinking.
Okay.
thinking, let me let somebody in here who's trying to get in. So what we call thinking is having thoughts, but what's generating those thoughts is the reptilian brain, which your prefrontal brain, the prefrontal part, which is the cognitive part, processes about 40 data packets per second. The reptilian brain, which is like the recorder, and it's not a precise recorder because it records your impressions or your way of, like you have a trauma early on and you say something's wrong. You don't make your caregiver wrong. You say something's wrong with me. I'm bad. Okay. All that's recorded in the reptilian brain. The reptilian brain transfers data at 40 million data packets per second. So the reptile brain is 1,000,000 times more powerful than our new brain, our cognitive brain. So in order to work with your personal, the places where you were traumatized, like when you look at your boyfriend and he's across town and you can feel his anger, what you're feeling is your anger in him. You may be connected with him and it's being triggered in that energy, but it's actually your anger to then explore and embrace, but it looks like it's out there, but he shows up in your nervous system. And so sitting, it's like if you take a glass of muddy water, when you're moving all the time, the muddy water never settles. But if you sit and the mud and the glass goes down, the mud settles to the bottom and you can see the clear water on the top. That's basically what meditation does.
It's so
It's a
interesting.
great way of describing it.
Yeah. I just have this sense that, yeah, I guess it's not attaching to those thoughts when they come up or something, because it's like they do just keep coming. And it's, I guess my trick is, how is it that I can notice them and not follow them down a hole?
Well, first of all, the first question is who's not attaching? Because you're looking like you're attaching. You're not attaching. Your nervous system is attaching. By being present with them, every trauma has a time signature, right? It's in the trauma. So, and trauma at 2 or 3 years old is very different than trauma at 12 or 15 or 30. They're very different. They have a different consistency. So, but what has to happen is the trauma is undigested, it's unexperienced because your nervous system shut down and couldn't experience it. And you can't experience it in your head. You have to go to the body to experience. And then the fear, and I'm glad you're talking about the emotions, because the emotions come up, but mostly we have our feelings in our head rather than feeling the emotions in our body. So if I have fear and I don't know where it is in the body, then it's in my head. Now, interestingly enough, if you have fear in your head, it does the same chemical releases as fear in your body, but it's in no way will integrate the fear and digest the fear from that experience to where you can feel safe. Does that make sense?
I feel like I missed something though. So what is it that you do in order to digest it? Thinking about it and
You're
getting
not thinking about it at all. There's no thinking.
No, I was saying what doesn't work. Like the thinking about and getting afraid in your head doesn't digest it, but what does?
Embracing it, allowing it. Awareness does the healing. That's the hardest thing for people to get. If I can just sit with my little anger or my little fear you
So
know,
like
or
empathy, like
big fear. If I
I
can
notice.
just, go ahead.
So like empathy, self-empathy. Like I notice I'm feeling really angry right now, and just like, okay, there it is. That kind of thing.
Yeah, and where is that anger in your body, Julie?
Yeah, I have a hard time with that one. It's something my women's group has been trying to train us. And I usually I think there's a couple of like I often feel things in my stomach, but it seems like that's the only place I feel most of the things. And I feel like where I feel things is very limited. Like sometimes my face, sometimes my throat, sometimes my belly, and sometimes my chest, but it's rarely anywhere else. And I'm like, is that okay? I guess that's the
Of
and
course, it's
really
okay.
okay.
It's very okay because your body's doing that, but you're not going to digest it unless you actually spend time with it. In the way of the mystic, we have a process. I'm not going to go into it, but it's presencing. First of
Mhm.
all, bringing the awareness to it. So presence and perception are zooming in, like you zoom in a telescope, into the body. Then we witness it. Witnessing is a state that you only can discover in a meditative, by being meditative, because it's the state where you recognize, oh, I'm watching myself think now. Oh, I'm watching my sense of anger, which is in my chest and in my lungs. Who's watching? Oh, are there two of me? This is
Mm,
when you discover what witnessing actually is. The
mhm,
bifurcation of that allows awareness to do its work with your mind getting out of the way. So that's the second step in being able to witness. Once you witness it, it has a time and it has an incident. Now, you're not always, if you were 1 year old or 2 years old pre-verbal, you're not going to find the exact incident. Although I have, with a 2 year old, 3 year old trauma, been able to work with people to go back that. But the point is, you go back and you embrace that energy and you love that energy. And you take little Julie when she couldn't handle her anger because she wasn't seen and it wasn't okay. So she suppressed her authenticity, suppressed her anger down, and wasn't able to do it. And you have to go back and take that 2 or 3 year old Julie and you put her on your lap and you say, sweetheart, that was really scary when that happened. And you were really angry and you were shut down and weren't allowed to express that anger. And so you had to be a good girl, but actually there's a wild girl in there that wants to express herself authentically and really. And that's the part there that you have to love. And you put her on your lap and you say, that was scary. And I want you to know I love you and I understand. And it's okay to be scared. That was a scary situation. And I love you and I'm here for you. And I will always be here for you. That's the embracing part.
mhm. Okay.
Yeah.
Michael,
And you do this all by yourself, or do you really need someone to be supporting you?
It depends on what kind of self-regulation you have, and self-regulation comes out of co-regulation. And if you didn't have co-regulation as a child, no. But if you had good co-regulation, you could, or if you've done a lot of work. But that's why I do groups, because in groups you have the ability to raise the bar with co-regulation, because most people need co-regulation, because that's the essence of being a mammal. Mammals need to be held and nurtured. You're not a turtle. Somebody didn't come and lay an egg in the sand and then you matured and went off into the ocean. That is not our species. We're mammals. All mammals need to be held, touched, fed, cared for. Yeah.
I was going to ask about your meditations, Michael. What sort of form? I love guided meditations. I love hearing someone else, and as long as I trust that person that's talking, then I get into it very easily. I find it a lot harder to do. Sometimes I can do it with myself. Sometimes if I'm in nature, I kind of really embrace it, but I find it hard otherwise.
Yeah, that's a really important question, Sharon. So I listen to my teachers' meditations often to kickstart my own meditation, because I meditate an hour to 2 hours.
Yeah.
But don't rely on that. The real meditation is when you can actually be with what's arising, to be with the occurring as it occurs. So another person's words, like you may have heard, I have this 30-day meditation that's just meditations I channeled in a, what was that, Iana, that I did? I did a 30-day meditation challenge. And I know you were there, and maybe.
Was great. That was great.
So you can use those, and those were all channeled meditations from following the occurring and what was happening. So they all have a different kind of frequency and vibration to them. But that's just to kind of get you grounded and centered. There's no way around these frozen parts. The only way through is through. You know, there's not a simple way. You've got to do the work. And you can talk about it all day and have philosophies and it's like listening to talk radio.
Yeah.
And some people like really soothing talk radio or music, and some people like, what is his name, Harold Stern or whatever, what's the guy's name, that's these kind of angry people, or sex people or stuff like that are just blasting nonsense out into the world. Well, that's your brain. Unfortunately.
Michael, I feel a bit scared, which sounds, I feel like I've kind of regressed in some ways. I feel like my world has really opened. I feel like I know or feel and sense so much, but actually what I found kind of a lot easier to do before, there's now like some sort of block. I don't know whether and it's.
And let me tell you something, that is a very good thing, to feel your fear. We're swimming in a sea of fear right now. Look at the nonsense that's going on in the world. You should feel some fear. And some grief for what we lost. If you're not feeling some fear and grief, you are numb. So, and you can't feel joy if you can't feel grief. You can never really allow yourself. I'm working with another person personally that there was an accident, and her boyfriend was killed. She was very young, but it was a boyfriend. It wasn't a boyfriend, it was a boyfriend that was killed. And when we went into the trauma of that, she made a very clear statement. She just said it, outwardly in the work we were doing together. I'll never let anyone in again. Now she's been in a marriage for 30 years. How do you think that marriage is going? I'll never let anybody in again. It's a numb relationship, which is what many people are in. Our feelings of fear and anxiety and stress have been numbed to protect us when we were younger. But right now, we need to feel those feelings. We need to locate them in our body. We need to integrate them so that we can co-regulate with other people. We can't even self-regulate. So we co-regulate, we build our capacity to self-regulate, and then when we're with people, whether it's at work, whether it's our partners, whatever, then we can really relate to people and feel them and feel their emotions in our body and hear their thoughts. So like when Julie was talking about the anger that's coming across, that's a co-regulation. That's a form of co-regulation there. Now, if you push it away and fight it, you're not dealing with your own anger, because someone else's traumas are in your nervous system, and whatever they're triggering is yours, not theirs. So the boundaries of our self-awareness and narrative are the boundaries of our ability to actually be fully with someone, which is kind of cool in a way. if you want powerful relationships, then you learn how to be still inside and be a safe person for someone else. And that's what co-regulation is. There's safety there that another person can raise their level of ability to connect with you. So just to go back to attachment theory, right? Early attachment, huge area. We all have attachment wounds. If you're born, you have attachment wounds. So, but to the degree that you were able to feel held and seen and heard is the degree that you'll be able to feel and see and hear others until you do your work through meditation and practice. So when I was talking about Julie and saying about the anger issue, for instance, if someone, I'm not saying Julie, but I'm just referring to what I said, if the anger rises up and it doesn't feel safe, are you going to express your authenticity, or are you going to operate from your attachment? In other words, if I get angry, will he love me? You know, if I don't have sex with him tonight because I really don't feel like it, is it going to get hangry? I guess to just have sex with him. You know, let's put it right, you know, where it lives. So when it comes to attachment or authenticity, what do you think we choose?
Attachment.
Every time. Until we've integrated those parts, we're going to choose attachment over authenticity.
And isn't it good to have attachment? You're saying,
None of this is about good or bad.
no, but I mean, so you're saying either authenticity or attachment, but but choosing attachment is life-giving if you haven't had that.
Well, yeah, it lets you feel that you know, but you've thrown out your soul, basically. You sell your soul out in order for attachment. That's all.
Oh, I see.
That's all.
Yeah.
It just steals your soul.
So you have to build the healthy attachment.
Right, and you do that through co-regulation and through self exploration and working with someone or a group of people, you know, like Julie's got a group that's working with her to get in the body. You know, I do all those classes that I do that, you know, are to help people to be able to co-regulate and self-regulate so that we can, you know, it's kind of like, this is healing the world one nervous system at a time. It's like teaching rocks to speak. I don't know if you ever read The Master Game, but the person dedicated his life to teaching rocks to speak. And while he hadn't had a lot of success, he was passing his profession on to his children because he felt it was a noble work. So yeah.
Right now,
You know, in the end, it comes down to all of it. And I don't mean this in a narcissistic way. It comes down to cultivating self-love for your soul and for spirit, you know, and the amazing opportunity to be alive at this time, which is a privilege and an honor. And, you know, we're at a time when you know, the species evolution and future is, you know, the odds are not in our favor of surviving right now, really. But
life wants to live. And so life living through us is the evolutionary jump that's needed at this moment. And trauma and stress is the linchpin that allows us to have an evolutionary jump. So the possibility is very real, but we're also, on the cusp of our own destruction. And it's important to feel that, because, just because it's there. There's so much fear in the world right now, so much adversity. And the only thing that you can do about it is do your inner work. That's the only thing to do. So sitting on the cushion and slowing down, like we were talking about in the beginning, is the best thing that you could do for the future of life on Earth, in my opinion, anyway, for what it's worth. Daria's got a little ashram in South Carolina.
I was going to say, we just need to follow Dara.
Right.
Well, I'm following Michael because, and thank God for COVID, because I mean, I hate that it's been such an awful experience for so many people, but it gave me permission to quit accommodating every damn body and to start paying attention to me and to allow myself to be my wild, authentic, just be. I feel like I'm becoming feral or unconditioned. I mean, and I'm absolutely loving it. I live in South Carolina, where we're all very rebellious. I seem to be the only one wearing a mask these days. So it's really easy for me to stay put and to slow down. I just gave myself permission to do this. And then I tripped over Michael and found him and his wisdom. So I'm excited for this opportunity to explore everything.
Yeah. I think once you start, Dara, you open yourself to one, and then it leads to another, and then leads to another, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm also working with Sandra Ingerman at this time too, and she's got a really beautiful course on how to overcome a lot of the anger and to give ourselves some self-care on a shamanistic perspective. So I'm getting several doses.
She is so great, Michael.
She really is.
Yes.
So I'm getting a double dose and have the time to do it.
Sandy's a dear friend. She's amazing. I love her to pieces. She was one of my teachers and is a close friend and supported my work for a long time. So something I want to say about what you were saying, though. I just want to jump before I leave that.
Yeah, I wanted to say something.
This is not. Yeah, just hold the thought a second, because I have a good memory. It's just short, So this is not talking about narcissism and just, that's another spiritual bypass. It's just go out there and who cares, let's just, get wild and crazy and forget about everything else. And, this is very different. It's really connecting with our soul's purpose, the light of our soul that's coming down through us, to be able to recognize and feel that and get back to your original purpose in being born, which is original goodness. But everyone has a flavor of that given their ancestry and what they were born into, the place they were born into, the situations they were born into. People are searching for their purpose somewhere out there, and they've collapsed it often with capitalism, which is really interesting. Has nothing to do with the work you do or the job you do. It may. I mean, in my case, my personal work is in alignment with, my own background of trauma. It took me a long time to get really clear about that. But so this is really about this reclaiming the authenticity that I'm talking about, that sense of the wild self. It's I don't know if I'd use the word feral as I would use the word the freedom of totally being yourself. Yeah, but I totally am in alignment with what you said, Daria. It's great. Okay, anything personal that you want I really appreciated, Julie, your question, because it was very personal, and I hope that some of the things I said will help. And in your group, really let people help you get into your body, because do yoga, take walks, do conscious things, get massages, get in your body. There was a James Joyce story, and one of his short stories, and he started out, the first line was, "Mr. Duffy lived a short distance from his body." That kind of says it all. We all live a short distance from our body. And I worked in a corporate world for 35 years. And, I used to say I work with heads on sticks. They just have bodies to carry their head to the next meeting. So
Yeah,
not everyone.
thank you for your
So,
reply.
yes, and Daria, I'm going to try to see if I can contact you and be in touch. But so what is, I'm feeling a little bit stuck. So what is a good place to start? I guess everything that you've been saying.
Yeah, well, what's stuck? When you say I'm stuck, what does that mean? I'm stuck.
Sometimes I'm not feeling my feelings, and sometimes, yeah, I feel that authenticity, that I can choose that, and I really feel that, and then sometimes I guess I want to be safe. So
Yeah, well, whatever's in the way of you not feeling your feelings, or wanting to be more authentic and not being authentic, selling out to attachment, whatever it is in the way, is not in the way, it is the way.
Right.
So where there is to go is whatever it is you're struggling with, whatever struggle you're having, go into it, get curious, say, whoa, that's interesting. And go into the body and say, where does that live in my body? What emotion am I having? Where does that emotion show up on my body? Get attuned to your body. Know your liver, know your kidneys, know your heart, know your flow of your blood, intimately know your body. I'm just standing here feeling the blood running, from my heart up to the end of my fingers and back, and communicating, in my nervous system right now, just with holding my hand like that. You want to be that aware of what's happening in you. And notice also when you're with someone else, when you either have a hard time being with them, or if you're being with them, you lose yourself. You lose your self-awareness. That's a huge place to start. That makes every interaction an opportunity for awakening. Every single, whether you're with the store clerk and she snaps or something, and you actually feel that in your body, and you actually feeling her in your body, and recognizing, well, this woman might be having a hard day, doesn't have anything to do with me. That's creating coherence. Another word for empathy is coherence. I'm in alignment with what's happening out there. So hope that's helpful. I
guess you could call them divine blockages.
Divine blockages. That's a good one. Yeah. Sure.
Oh, divine. It's divine because of what it teaches you. Yeah, absolutely.
Shows you the way.
Everything is divine. Taking a poop is divine. It's all divine.
You can go back to the, or I could, go back to the traumatized person, with strength, that now I am strong. I am my adult self. And so I can stand up in this situation. I mean, that's right. Just.
I would be careful about the strong part, because that's kind of, I shall overcome. And that's not what I'm talking about. But yes, the other part is, yes, going back and having empathy for that younger person, and attending to it from an adult place. Also from an adult place, you can recognize why your parents may have done the things they did that caused trauma in you. So you can go back generations and be with that and understand. But, you know, we live in an adolescent society, if you hadn't noticed. We are not a mature species. We are an adolescent species. So the more you can cultivate an adult perspective on the past and the future, the more enlivened you'll be, I think. Does that make sense, what I'm saying? Yeah.
Michael, do you do any past life trauma kind of work? Is that part of your
I don't,
your wheelhouse?
yeah, I've done a lot of stuff around that, but I don't find that to be pertinent to the work I'm doing now.
Okay.
I'm way more interested in ancestral work than past life work. It's just too messy when you get really into it in terms of the value that it can produce. I always
Interesting.
wonder why in past lives, everybody is either a king or a queen or a savior or something. I'd love to hear a past life that says, I was a plumber.
I was pissed
Or
off
I
at
was
my
a-
past lives. I brought in a lot of anger from my past lives,
Yeah,
which is why I was asking if that is
right,
even
right.
something you explore.
Yeah.
So I was not anything regal. I was just pissed off. Period.
That too, all of that. But it just for me, and I have done a lot of work in that area, and it's not, it doesn't substantiate the kind of healing that I'm committed to, the interconnected, interdependent healing. I mean, it's great. And like I said, I have done that, but I'm really looking to shift the model from the doctor, I'm separate and I'm going to heal you in my large S, to the interconnected person who allows life to heal because life wants to heal. And the safer it is, the more life will heal through me, will heal me through me. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree that that there is original sin, but it's not the sin that what we normally think of. I think that lie of separation that we have told ourselves, that's the original sin, that we are separate.
Or, yeah.
Because we're not. We're all
Right.
we're all
It is,
connected.
no, yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely, absolutely. Sorry, I'm not at my desk here, Amy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, we're getting towards the end here, and I've got to get on another call right after this. So I just want to appreciate, that you're on the journey, that you showed up for this call. It's
Yeah.
interesting that there's, of course, this was a free course, but there were close to 500 people in it. And I just want to honor you for your commitment to your own awakening and the awakening of the species, because people don't come to me until they're ready to, awaken, basically. And so just want to honor that. Out of 500 people, 5 of you showed up.
Oh, it's been nice to have a small group though. I
Yeah,
can feel my
Yeah.
chest is just warm and the energy just feels beautiful. Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. That's
I
great.
love that, Michael, that you come from your own experience. So it really is healing together. That's what really draws me.
Yeah, whatever our own experience are our credentials, no matter how many degrees somebody has. As a therapist, somebody, who can't be with, if somebody's talking about murder or molesting or, some horrible things that the therapist can't feel in their own body, that's not going to help to co-regulate and help the person to heal those parts. It's got to be an interdependent healing in that sense, if you're working with a teacher.
That's what drew me to you, was your level of presencing and your compassion, which is of course my kind of, that's what I'm looking for, is to learn self-compassion and to be able to be compassionate with others.
Yeah.
So that was what attracted me to you.
And that's right. It all starts in self-compassion. If you're not compassionate with yourself, you're not going to be compassionate with other people.
No.
Yeah, so
Same
thank
thing
you.
with love too.
If any of you are interested in joining the Way of the Mystic, I just let a couple more people. We've had 2 sessions, but we haven't had an integration session yet. So I just let actually 3 more people. I have a number of people that are auditing the course that are only doing the video series, but you're welcome to contact me if you're interested. And after next Tuesday, I think it's next Tuesday. Yeah, after next
It is
Tuesday.
Tuesday. I'm in that course.
Yes.
Lucky you.
Yeah, you are. And I'm glad you're in that course.
Me too.
It's pretty
It was a
amazing course.
gift I
Isn't it?
gave to myself.
It's a good gift.
Yes.
Yeah. That's we have a beautiful configuration, and it's a small group too.
Mhm.
I try to
About
keep those
16.
groups under 20 anyway. I mean,
Mhm.
20 is my max, and we have 18. So although we might be at 20 now, I'll have to check that. But if somebody really wants to get into it, let me know and we'll open it, because I won't do another one probably till next year of that.
What is that one about?
The Way of the Mystic is based on using everything that occurs in our life. You know how a mystic will be sitting off in a cave in an ashram, and that's the traditional way, and meditating. But the Way of the Mystic, that's the contemporary mystic, is to use everything that happens in our life as an opportunity for awakening. And so it takes you through the process of presencing, witnessing, embracing, and then it's 7 sessions plus 3 of these kind of integration sessions that are live at different times. And this one's Tuesday mornings at 8 o'clock Pacific time, 8 o'clock Pacific time. So whatever time that works to you. And then the coaching sessions are usually either midday or in the evening. So the people who can't do the live course can at least come to the integration. So yeah. Anything you want to say about it, Daria, before we leave? Just your
I've
experience?
taken copious notes when you talk. I've got a nice journal, and I'm enjoying hearing a lot of what you said today. Were bits and pieces of what you have talked about in the class. And you're right, we've just gotten started and only had 2 sessions, but you have talked to us about how to go through the process of working through our divine blockages, so that we can be a good presence for the world, for ourselves, and then for the world. Depending on whatever happens to the world, at least we will be standing strong in it.
I'm going to hire you to do my PR. Thank you. Yeah, that's great.
But that was another thing I liked about you too, is that you weren't very, very pushy in your PR. So you're very authentic. So
yeah, I'm the world's worst salesman. But anyway.
Well, you are and you aren't. You're not a marketeer, but you
Right.
are. But you do present yourself really well.
Yeah, thank you, Daria. Thank you all, and I look forward to seeing you in other events. And I often do free events too, so make sure you watch the Well of Light, the monthly newsletter, and see what's coming up. And I often suggest other people too in that newsletter, and books and videos and different things to try to enhance the training. So if you're not getting it, or you want to get it, just write to us and let us know. Yeah, so thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Lovely to meet you all.
Much
Yes,
love
it
to
was
you
lovely.
all.
And where,
Okay.
if
Love.
would like to be led to, do a meditation, where would be a good place to find it? In the stress course, or?
I do meditation in all my courses. Yeah.
You have that 30-day meditation. I was listening to that this
Right.
morning. That's where can she find that?
Well, she's got that. She did that. So you have that, Ivanna. You have
Oh, okay, yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah.
It was spontaneous.
It was very spontaneous. Yeah. So all those resources. And if you don't have the meditation, just go to welloflight.com. And when you sign up, you get the meditation. I think it still works that way. Like I said, I'm not much of a marketer. I don't do Facebook. I don't touch social media. Anything that's on social media, Taylor, my assistant, is stuck up there, but I just won't go into that territory of social media. I think it's,
You're
it's,
lucky.
yeah,
I
it's,
gotta say, great that you don't have to. I tend to be turned off by pushy and like book this and all the busyness. So like the slow and steady is what gets me interested.
yeah, that's beautiful. And good luck with your group there, Julie. It sounds like you've got a great group that's holding you and supporting you. So
Thank you. Yeah.
I encourage everyone to be in a group. I just feel that people go so much faster, so much deeper when they're working in a small group, particularly. Like I said, I limit my classes to 20 people. But yeah,
Is
so
also Thomas, you both work?
pardon me?
Yes.
Yeah, Thomas is my primary teacher. So
Right.
I just committed to another 3 years with him. So
Wow.
anyway, much love to you all. I need to
Thank
jump on
you.
another call here. So you take care. Thank you.
Okay.
All
Much
Take
love.
care.
Be
Thank you,
blessed.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
It'd be great to do a bit.